Welcome to my Bob Thurman podcast. I'm so grateful some good friends enabled me to present them to you. If you enjoy them and find them useful, please think of becoming a member of Tibet House US to help preserve Tibetan culture. Tibet House is the Dalai Lama's cultural center in America. All best wishes. Have a great day.
This is episode 304, Reading, Chanting, and Exploring the Heart Sutra.
We're going to read together the Heart Sutra in English in the Zen manner. And I don't know who kindly sent me, a mysterious supporter sent me the wooden fish I've been complaining about all this time that I've been doing it, which I will use to keep the rhythm, try to, okay? So ready? Go. In Sanskrit, Bhagavati Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra. In Tibetan, Chomdendema Pachenying Burdo. In English, Blessed Lady Buddha Transcendent Wisdom Heart Sutra. Thus did I hear on a single occasion the Blessed Lord was dwelling on the vulture peak at Rajagurha together with great communities of mendicants and bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed Lord contented himself in the teaching samadhi called illumination of the profound. Just then the noble Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, the great hero, was realizing the profound transcendence of wisdom, and he realized that his five body-mind processes were void of any intrinsic reality. Thereupon, the Buddha's power, Venerable Shariputra addressed the noble Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, the great hero. Thus, when the noble son in the practice of the profound transcendence of wisdom, what should he learn? Then the noble Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, the great hero, addressed Venerable Putra, the Shariputra. When any noble son or noble daughter wishes to engage in the practice of the profound transcendence of wisdom, he or she should realize it in this way. There's five body-mind processes should be truly realized to be void of any intrinsic reality. Matter is voidness. Voidness is matter. Voidness is not other than matter. Matter other than voidness. Likewise, sensations, conceptions, mental functions, and consciousnesses are also void. Thus, all things are voidness, signless, uncreated, unsustainless, impeccable, undecreased, and unincreased. Shariputra. Thus, in voidness there are no matter, no sensation, no conception, no mental function, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mentality, no form, no sound, no scent, no taste, no texture, no idea. There are no sense media from eye to mentality sense media. Then there are no consciousness media from visual to mental consciousness medium either. There there are no ignorance and no cessation of ignorance. So on up to no old age and death, and no cessation of old age and death either. Likewise, there are no suffering, no origination, no cessation, no path, no intuitive wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment either. Therefore, Shariputra, the Bodhisattva, is without attainment. She lives in reliance on transcendent wisdom. Her spirit is unobscured and free of fear. And all confusion, she ultimately succeeds in nirvana. And all the Buddhas who live in past, present, and future rely on transcendent wisdom to reach unexcelled, manifestly perfect Buddhahood in unexcelled perfect enlightenment. Such being, so there is the mantra of transcendent wisdom, the mantra of great science, the unexcelled mantra, the universal mantra, the mantra that ends all suffering. It is not false and to be known as truth. The transcendent wisdom mantra as follows: Tadyata Om Gate Gate Para Samgate Bodhisvaha. Om Gate Gate Para Samgate Bodhisvaha. Om Gate Gate Para Samgate Bodhisvaha. Shariputra, the Shuddha Bodhisattva, the great hero, learned the profound transcendence of wisdom. Thereupon the blessed Lord arose from that samadhi, and the noble Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, the great hero, excellent, excellent, noble son. So it is, one should practice the profound transcendence of wisdom in the way you taught it, and even the transcendent Buddhas will joyfully congratulate you when the blessed Lord had spoken thus. The Venerable Sharadatiputra, the noble Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, the great hero, and everyone in that audience and the whole world with its gods, humans, titans, and fairies rejoiced and all applauded what the Buddha said. Okay, be gone, be gone. Any bad moods, any bad vibes, be gone, be gone, be gone. I will give you a little commentary on the Heart Sutra that you can use. And first of all, they always recite the names of the sutra in Sanskrit, which is known as the language, the divine language, the language of the gods, of which the Buddhists consider there are many, and many benevolent and good ones. There are also demons, and anti-gods, but there are gods. And so they spoke Sanskrit, in fact. They tend to speak Sanskrit because it's a very perfect language. It's a perfected, sort of very, very technically accurate and marvelous and flexible language. So Bhagavati, however, one thing, it's a female, it's considered a female. The wisdom of transcendent wisdom, Prajna Paramita, is considered a goddess, and wisdom is associated with the female, sort of archetypally, and compassion with the male, surprisingly, archetypally, and wisdom being the source of compassion, like the female gives birth to also other females and also males in mammal human form. So it's called Bhagavati, and Bhagavati means the lucky one, the blessed one, like Buddha is the name. Bhagavan is usually the name of Buddha, title of an enlightened person. And later in Indian history, it comes to be the names of different loving gods, Bhagavan. But Bhagavati is the female of that, so it's goddess, Prajna Paramita. Then Hridaya means essence or heart, but Hridaya, heart, it's kind of cognate with the English heart. And Sutra means a thread of language, a thread of meaning, a thread of insight, Sutra. And so the thread of expression of the heart of transcendent wisdom, the female Buddha, the woman Buddha, Buddha woman. In Tibet, and then the Tibetan title, because it was holy and scriptural in Tibet, Jomden Dema Shara Parcha Nyingbu Do, and that's just a translation of the Sanskrit. And then my translation, I think, with proper, Blessed Lady Buddha, Transcendent Wisdom Heart Sutra. And then first thing, thus did I hear on a single occasion. This is not just a thing like I heard it around town. Some people just simply say, thus have I heard, as if like I just heard it around. But that doesn't mean that. Thus did I hear on a single occasion means that the narrator of this text was present when the Buddha taught this. Or in fact, this one was actually taught by Avalokiteshvara, and I'll explain that. But in the Buddha's presence, and in that sense authorized by the Buddha. So thus did I hear, and I heard it on a special singular occasion even, sometimes I like to say. Then the Blessed Lord, or the Blessed One, was dwelling on the Vulture Peak at Rajagurha, which is where he did teach all the different versions of the Transcendent Wisdom Sutra, from one syllable to 100,000 lines, and even sort of cosmically, even like almost endless. And when he taught it in the longer ones, he did a special effect. Stuck out his tongue, which Buddha's tongue is very huge, like a yogi tongue, can touch his hairline with it, tip of it, and it covers his whole face if he sticks it out. Anyway, he stuck out his tongue, and a light came from the tongue, and everyone present on earth, on this earth, or Shakyamuni's earth, they saw him also doing this in many other worlds to other huge audiences of people. And those Buddhas were also had their tongue stuck out, and they were making temporarily visible to their audiences all the other massive audiences throughout the galaxy or throughout the universe, many galaxies. It was like an incredible vision like that they conveyed to people just to inspire them that if they think it's hard to understand this ultimate non-duality, ultimate reality teaching, then they should realize there are many people facing it and learning it, and it may indeed be possible for them to understand it. So then the Blessed One was dwelling on the Vulture Peak where he would teach these, and he had mendicants, which were like Shariputra, the celibate monastics, but they were not monastics they were wandering mendicants, because they didn't stay in one place except during the rainy season, not to inflict upon the lay community the need to feed them, since they lived on alms, on the gifts of food. So they would move around constantly, and therefore mendicant is the proper translation for bhikshu or bhikshuni, female and male mendicant. And then bodhisattvas can be lay people. Some of them are mendicants, some of them are lay people. And then this is very important. Then the whole sutra takes place in the field of the Buddha's samadhi, which is called a teaching samadhi, a special kind of samadhi, where the Buddha, without words, creates a field wherein people's insight and concentration and openness to a new insight and a new experience of the world is intensified by the power. But even though long run people have to work through it and open their mind to their own cultivated understanding and meditative concentration, but temporarily the Buddha opens this field to make them especially receptive, to give them kind of the pattern and the goal, the target of where they hope that one hopes their meditation will lead, called the illumination of the profound. And the profound is not simply some empty space, as people wrongly think emptiness means. Emptiness is not simply an empty space, because emptiness is empty of itself, and therefore it's not a thing like a space, opposite to a non-space like a solid object, like matter. It is matter as well as empty space between seeming material things. All of it is emptiness, empty of itself, therefore filled with all relativities. So in a way, the real meaning of the illumination of the profound is that we think that these material things are all absolute things in themselves, like the floor has floorness, I have I-ness, ego has ego-ness, chair has chairness, like Plato thought. And more primitive Western metaphysics thought, and Indian as well, and Chinese as well, sort of substantializing everything around them. And the deeper view is that everything is an inconceivable web of interrelatedness. And to discover that, one has to realize that wherever you try to find the absolute nature of whatever you look at, it will disappear under your investigative analysis. And so then you'll have a space-like experience, and then the most important object then to disappear is the space-like experience. Because that's a relational experience that you have where there seems to be no relation and no you. and you go through almost like a nothingness experience and a spatial experience, and then that disappears and everything is here. But then now its here-ness has a different quality. It's like instead of seeing something, you're seeing a mirror reflection of something. It's being reflected in the mirror of emptiness, you can say, as long as you don't get stuck on the idea that emptiness is something opposite to all the solid things. It rather is the nature of all the solid things. They are all transparency, clear light, same as you are. So you are in that way completely and ultimately and absolutely interwoven with all things and they with you. That's what emptiness means. And so the illumination of the profound is where people really get to feel that way. And that's what happens. Okay? And then at that time, what is so interesting, he then empowers the divine Bodhisattva, Ishvara Bodhisattva, who is an Avalokita Ishvara, who is worrying about all the human beings and animals of all kinds, even hell beings, even other kinds of dumber gods. He's worrying about them all in the sense of, are they free of suffering or not? Avalokita means to look with caring, loving concern. So Avalokita, and Ishvara means God. So Avalokita Ishvara is considered the Bodhisattva who is already having become a Buddha, then remains among beings as a Bodhisattva, an enlightening hero or an enlightening being, in order to open them, and he is the manifestation of the compassion of all Buddhas, they say. Avalokiteshvara. He's like an archetype of the active compassion of all Buddhas. So he is born of emptiness, insight and realization of the wisdom of emptiness, and he is the action of emptiness as the active dynamic compassion that helps to liberate others from suffering by teaching them emptiness, which is freedom to relate to things without suffering, without harming, without damage to self or other, in a blissful, happy, loving way. And so it's very significant that he is the one who speaks this Heart Sutra. Other Transcendent Wisdom Sutras have other speakers, sometimes Buddha himself, sometimes the mendicant Subhuti, and etc., and even the god Indra, the Indian sort of Odin, you know. But in this case, it's the especially powerful and valuable Heart Sutra. It's the God of compassion, the Buddha, the divine Buddha of compassion. So then he teaches, and then the gist of the teaching is that he saw things himself. He saw that all of his body and mind, the five aggregates of body, sensation, conception, emotion, volition, and consciousness, those five levels of process of the body-mind complex, he saw that they were all reflections in the mirror of emptiness. So they were made of emptiness, and made of the clear light of emptiness. They were themselves, but yet they were transparent to emptiness. He saw like that. Don't think he just saw them disappear, because he'd already done that. But he saw the disappearance as fused with the appearance, therefore the appearance being something more magical, light, you know, like an illusion, like a magical illusion, and therefore more malleable to ameliorate the situation for the benefit of all beings. But the key thing of these famous four phrases: matter is voidness, voidness is matter, voidness is not other than matter, neither is matter other than voidness. And this is an unusual translation by me, because the tradition was to call it form, and of course not voidness but emptiness. So form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Form already seems like a more vague thing to people. Of course, this chair leg here is form, but we don't really get the solidity out of it being form. We get a picture of it is also form, but when I bang on it, its solidity is its materiality. But that's what emptiness is, as well as the space between the rungs, as well as the space around it. So emptiness is this unbroken, flowing, inconceivable field of infinite energy that is shaped by being's awareness, either a misknowing awareness or a validly knowing awareness. It is shaped into the forms of life, and but it's all the one thing. That's what he saw. So anyway, so the mendicant Shariputra, who's more dualistic in his philosophy up until he encounters these kind of teachings, that is to say, he thinks that the world of suffering, samsara, is here and nirvana is somewhere else, and it is that sort of human escapist feeling of sensitive people that caused Buddha to allow a dualistic form of his teaching, knowing that when they try to escape from everything, this kind of spiritual, sensitive seeker who seeks to escape suffering that way, they will somehow realize that there is no nothing to stay in outside of everything. Because emptiness will prove to be empty, and it will be filled with everything, and then they must relate compassionately with all of it. He knows they will discover that by themselves, but if they were told that ahead of time, in many cases, they would either become discouraged that this can't possibly be a place free of suffering because I just stubbed my toe, or they would become complacent in a worse way almost, where they say, well, I can be mean, or I can be bad, or I can do whatever it makes, because nothing matters, because it's all nirvana. Thinking again of nirvana as some sort of separate state, okay? And crushing, therefore, the sensitivity of relationship, which is the key teaching of Buddha, key discovery of Buddha. The absolute sensitivity of relationship, therefore the absolute need for compassion, relatively absolute need for compassion. So then he, noble son or noble daughter, he adds in the female being more wise. When he's asked how would the son do it, he says the son or daughter would do it. Have a look at this fellow does. And he gives that message, and then he negates everything. He says, no, no, no. And what he means by that, by the no, like no knows, it's not especially no self. It's no everything, even no knows. And the no knows just means that the knows is not an absolute thing, separate from other things, a thing in itself. No intrinsically real or intrinsically identifiable knows, intrinsically identifiable with its own fixed identity. There's a relational knows when you don't specially examine it to see what's its absolute state. And that's the one we sniff with. We bump into, we see in our field of vision. I call it the hood ornament. But it's no absolute knows is what he means. Only a relational knows. But because we're so much into concretizing everything we perceive around it, he's emphasizing the fact that it will disappear under analysis when we look to find it as a solid thing. So it becomes only a relational thing. But he's emphasizing here the no, no, no aspect, as Buddha often does, to try to open our mind to the different state of the relational things and open us up to the flow of relationality, the flow of the grace of interconnecting with everything in a loving, happy way, in an open-minded way. So no old age and death, no cessation, no ignorance, no misknowledge, no cessation of ignorance, all this sort of thing. No attainment, but no non-attainment. So even, which is very interesting, meaning even the ignorant, misknowing person, such as ourselves, maybe I shouldn't speak for myself, but somewhere in me there is this wisdom, this knowing, this interconnectedness, this openness to interconnection. Indeed, I'm made of it. My life force itself is the compassionate, wise interconnectedness with all reality. That's what it is. But I don't know that. I wrongly think I'm this isolated and alienated person. Then the mantra is also worth talking about, because the mantra is like kind of the seed, the seminal meditation of that. And the gone, gate means gone, paragate means super gone, parasamgate means super totally gone, bodhi means enlightenment, which means both awakening and expanding to know everything, how to help people, and the nature of it also is therefore with giving you the compassionate ability to help other beings effectively. So that's bodhi. And then swaha means all is well, all hail. So, salute. And om is just an invocation, and even they often recite the mantra without the om, because in a way they don't need to invoke the reality, because they're focusing really on that the false reality disappears. The false reality that leads to suffering disappears. So what is gone is not like you're gone into some empty space, as many people wrongly understand emptiness to be an empty place where you go and escape from everything, which really is a kind of psychotic state, actually, if you get stuck in it. It's not a good state. And although there are psychotic deities who do get stuck in it, actually, in the Buddhist cosmology, which I don't have time to explain yet now, but what is gone is suffering. Gone, totally gone, super gone, super totally gone, parasamgate. It's all enlightenment and it's all good. Swaha. That's really what it's saying. And then when you repeat that as a mantra in sort of the most seminal linguistic way, and I only did it 3 times when I read it together, But when you read it sometimes on your own, if you do it before any practice or something, which is the way the Tibetan monks do and the Zen monks do all throughout East Asia, gone totally. When you recite gate, gate, then you murmur it without chanting aloud. You gate, gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhisvaham, gate, gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhisvaham, gate, gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhisvaham, gate, gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhisvaham. So then you're doing like a sort of mindfulness or awareness practice where you're just letting the stream of celebrating svaha, the fact that suffering is gone, when you're really open to reality, and then you feel filled and overflowing with love and joy, and suffering is gone, and you're celebrating that, and you're keeping your mind focused on that stream of speech, and then your wavering mind, you'll constantly bring it back to that, and it becomes a very deep and wonderful meditation. But be careful, what is also gone is a sense of goneness. So don't get stuck in a space as you can come to what is called space-like equipoised samadhi, where everything just becomes space. You even go out of body. You don't feel your body is floating in space. You lose your sense of being confined within a body, looking out at objects, and you are the vastness of the space. You have that. You can have that experience, and don't clamp your absolutist idea. This is the absolute, because it's not. It's just it's a relational experience of what we might expect the absolute opposite of the relative to be, but yet we are experiencing it as relational beings. We are surrendering to it, we are flowing into it, and therefore it is a relational experience. And therefore it will also become empty. If we change orientation, we enter it by looking for the solidity in things, and then it seems that everything is just solid space. But when we look for the solidity of the space, that will also disappear and everything will be back. And this matter and the emptiness will be the same. And then that's really what enlightenment is. Because then you are with all the beings, actually. And you're able to love them and help them and free them and so on. So it's kind of like freedom, When you're free, it doesn't mean you no longer exist. When you're free, it means you're not bound by some false sense of being absolutely connected to this exact thing. You're free and open, and therefore you relate only out of love and joy and choice, because you're free. And you do it without losing your freedom, because you're volunteering to be part of reality rather than being dragged by, a sense of entrapment in reality, including a sense of entrapment in a space of freedom. Seeming space of where there's nothing there, seeming nothingness even. Okay, so be aware of that and be very clear about what's called the royal reason of relativity. When you know that, which Mr. Einstein also touched on and discovered beautifully, and he finally called it love, it seems. That letter that people were saying was a forgery may well have been a real thing. It seems released from a trove kept at Jerusalem at Hebrew University for decades after his death. Okay, so that's my main commentary. And then finally, yes, clapping at the end and applauding in a way what the Buddha said, which they didn't do in ancient time. They don't clap, But we clap. Clapping is considered a way of sort of sealing our freedom and not letting anything that would bind us, any bad vibes or bad moods or anything, or bad spirits come in and invade us and bind us. And that's why we clap 3 times. Which is what the sutra itself does. There's a wonderful story, a Japanese no play, where some yogi monk wants to show local villagers that a haunted temple, he can survive a demon in a haunted temple for the night. And what he does is he has the Heart Sutra painted in Chinese characters over every inch of his body. But then in the morning he's still dead. It's one of those, because they have to make a tragedy, right? In no theater. And in the morning he's still dead anyway, and they discover that the demon went into the ear hole, which he couldn't, in the breathing, the nostrils, which he couldn't write the Heart Sutra on that. But the demon will never mess with anybody with the Heart Sutra. And if he had his mind well enough, they wouldn't have messed with him. Okay? All right. Thank you very much. That's a commentary that you can sometimes use. Okay? Now I'm going to give a small segment which can be used, and it's sort of, in a way, the complement of the Heart Sutra, to emphasizing the indivisibility, bliss void indivisible, by specifying going the negation of freedom, of going free. Emptiness really can be translated freedom, or voidness is freedom, voidness of bondage, that is. So freedom is emphasizing that, and then so it's emphasizing the Bo part of Bodhi. Bo, sort of blossoming, budding, blooming, like that. And then the D is the intelligence part of it, which is to be emphasized, the magnificence of the relational world. Once you discover that it's a kind of magic show, that it's a magic play, or like what Baba Ramdas would say, it's a movie. It's a movie you're in. You're in this play with all the Buddhas, and you can alter the script, to make sure there's no bad guys. The bad guys lose. The bad guys become good guys, and everybody ends up happy. It's a comedy. It's a divine comedy sort of thing. So the second one is then to really elaborate that magnificence, and the great sutra of that, the collection of sutras of that, is called the Buddha Avatamsaka Sutra, which means the Buddha Flower Ornament Sutra, meaning flower ornaments made of Buddhas, or Buddha Garland Sutra, you could also call it. But Huayan Jing, the Chinese translation of that, Huayan Jing, the Huayan literally is translatable as flower ornament, which meaning weaving flowers into a garland. And it is, of course, for Huayan Jing, but they sort of take for granted the Buddha flower ornament sutra. Jing means sutra. So, therefore, Thomas Cleary brilliantly translated it into English, all 1600 pages, which he, sadly, my dear friend Tom Cleary, passed away last year, or last part of this year. I've even lost track of the time, because I've been reading his sutra ever since, and it's been just, captivating my mind and fascinating me. So anyway, what I want to read is a specific section where the Bodhisattva Samantabhadra, when Tom translates brilliantly, I think, Bodhisattva as enlightening being, and Samantabhadra means universally good. Samanta means totally all around, all around good. But he translates universal good or universally good. And this enlightening hero or being is one of the great what are known as in Mahayana as the 8 great bodhisattvas, along with Manju, Sri Avalokiteshvara, Vajrapani, and so on, and Maitreya and the next Buddha. And his specialty you will see in this segment I will read, which kind of shows that every atom is filled with enlightening energy, infinitely to draw upon, in a sort of relationally magnificent way, rather than just seeking to get its true nature by drilling through its false appearance to find it to be free from the false appearance, and then re-engage with its realistic, illusory appearance. Rather than that, it's showing the magnificence of the illusory appearance, which is an appearance you don't get away from, you play with, you enjoy, you redesign as an artist of life to benefit all beings, including yourself. Okay? So this is book 3, or the 3rd sutra of the Avatamsaka. Now, the flower ornament occurs in most of it when the Buddha's within the Buddha's first 49 days after enlightenment, according to the Chinese commentators, and according to elements in the sutra, where in the sort of normal dualistic or Theravada Buddhism, or even in other kinds of Mahayana Buddhism that are not so expansive, they sort of say the history is that Buddha just spent 49 days hanging out in the grove in Bodh Gaya under the tree, where he was enjoying the bliss of being enlightened. And he was even it was not certain that he would go and teach everybody. The gods had to come and make a special invitation. Brahma, the so-called creator god, Brahma, who in fact was not the creator, he mentions. But anyway, they come and invite and insist that the Buddha does teach, actually, which they always do with all Buddhas. But Buddha expressed a certain diffidence about teaching, because on one hand, everybody already does know it in their subconscious, but also their conscience has a hard time coming to learn and to understand, often, if they're not well educated, to understand the reality of life, become a super scientist. Even every ordinary person is a super scientist, is the Buddhist view, if they want to bring that out within themselves. So this happens within the 49 days, like the bardo of Buddha being kind of reborn from having been an individuated human to being a Buddha, which is beyond human or non-human, beyond human or beyond divine. It's some kind of inconceivable new thing, which we all can and will be, given an infinity of time. It's a kind of infinite being, something like that. One with all the other Buddhas, same as all other Buddhas. Which they see us as already being like that, but we don't. We have to learn to do it because of the way we relate to time and space. Okay, out of our misknowing. Okay, so this book 3, The Meditation of the Enlightening Being Universally Good. I'm sorry, that's too much commentary, and this is to be read at the end. You can also have a version where you just have me read it. And maybe you could hand it out and read it together, like we do with the Heart Sutra if you want, but I won't need to hit because the fish, the wonderful sound of the wooden fish, I love it. The fish is helping by its sharp sound to develop sharpness of mind to break through the false vision of reality to gain a truly enlightened vision of reality, okay? Now we're playing with the simulation of the enlightened vision, simulation and language of the enlightened vision, okay? Okay, the enlightening being universally good. That's the Bodhisattva Samantabhadra. The great being. He likes to say, I say hero, he says being, or I say Shiro, he says being, and either one is okay. The great being sat on a lion throne made of a bank of lotus flowers and imbued with the psychic power of the enlightened one, again, Buddha's presence is around him, entered into concentration, samadhi, that is. This concentration is called the immanent body of the illuminator of thusness. So it's kind of like the illumination of the profound of the Buddha in the Heart Sutra, which is in all enlightened ones. It enters everywhere into the equal essence of all enlightened ones and is capable of manifesting myriad images in the cosmos, vastly and immensely, without obstruction, equal to space. All the whirling oceans of universes flow along into it. It produces all states of concentration and can contain all worlds in all directions. The oceans of lights of knowledge of all the enlightened ones come from here. It can reveal all the oceans of all conditions everywhere. It contains within it all the powers and liberations of the enlightened ones and the knowledge of the enlightening beings. It can cause the particles of all lands to be universally able to contain boundless universes. So the subatomic particle, not only does it disappear under analysis, seeking it as a thing in itself, but as a relational thing, it contains universes, every single subatomic particle. It's not nothing. It develops the ocean of virtuous qualities of all Buddhas and reveals the ocean of great vows of these enlightened ones. All the cycles of teaching of the Buddhas flow through it and are guarded and maintained by it and kept without interruption or end. As in this world, the enlightening being universally good entered this concentration in the presence of the world-honored one, the Bhagavan, thus in the same way throughout the realm of space of the cosmos, in all directions and all times, in a subtle, unhindered, vastly expansive light, in all lands visible to the Buddha's eye, within reach of the Buddha's power, manifested by the Buddha's body, and in each atom of all those lands, there were Buddhas as numerous as atoms in an ocean of worlds, and in front of each Buddha were universally good enlightening beings, numerous as atoms in an ocean of worlds, each also entering into this concentration in the immanent body of the illuminator of thusness in enlightened ones. You know, that means that everything you are, not only the universally good Bodhisattva, but you, as you are now, are equally present in other universes, in every atom of this universe, and in every atom of those universes. It's ad infinitum into the micro direction, never reaching nothing. So whatever you do should be something that you're proud to feel replicated in infinite dimensions and infinite universes in a multiverse, in an infiniverse. You should be proud to do that. It's sort of like Nietzsche's idea of the eternal recurrence, that the enlightened person, which he thought of as Zarathustra in his case, the enlightened person is willing to do what he would be willing to repeat doing forever only. Never do anything you wouldn't be willing to keep doing forever, in other words. A wonderful idea, which is similar to this, although he did not know this sutra. He had no idea of it. Okay? And then a little more. At that time, each of the universally good ones saw the Buddhas of the 10 directions appearing before them. Those Buddhas praised universally good in the same voice. Good, good, universally good. You are able to enter the enlightening being's concentration in the immanent body of the illuminator of thusness in all Buddhas. This is fostered in you by all the Buddhas everywhere together, by means of the power of the original vow of the illuminating realized one, Vairochana Buddha, who's sort of the heart of Shakyamuni Buddha, all Buddhas actually, and the body of all Buddhas. And it is also because you cultivate the power of the practices and vows of all Buddhas. That is to say, because you can activate all the cycles of the enlightening teaching, revealing the ocean of knowledge and wisdom of all enlightened ones, universally illumine all the oceans of distinctions everywhere, without exception, cause sentient beings to clear away confusion and addiction and attain purity, universally accept all lands without attachment, deeply enter the sphere of all enlightened ones without impediment, and universally expound the virtues and qualities of all enlightened ones. Because you are able to enter into the true character of all things and develop knowledge and wisdom, analyze all the media of the teachings, comprehend the faculties of all living beings, and because you are able to hold the ocean of written teachings of all the Buddhas. At that time, all the Buddhas of the 10 directions then bestowed on the great enlightening Shiro, universally good, the knowledge that enters into the power inherent in omniscience, the knowledge that enters into the infinity of the cosmos, the knowledge that perfects the realization of the sphere of all enlightened ones, the knowledge of the becoming and decay of all oceans of worlds, the knowledge of the full extent of the worlds of all sentient beings, the knowledge that abides in the extremely profound liberation of all enlightened ones, and the non-discriminating knowledge of all meditation states, the knowledge that enters into the ocean of all faculties of enlightening beings, the knowledge of elocution to turn the wheel of the teaching in the ocean of all languages of all sentient beings, the knowledge that enters in all ways into the bodies of all oceans of worlds in the cosmos, and the knowledge that comprehends the voices of all Buddhas. As in this world, in the presence of the Buddha, the enlightening being universally good experienced the Buddhas bestowing such knowledge, so in all oceans of worlds, as well as in each atom of all those worlds, so did all the enlightening beings universally goods there experience this. Why? Because they had realized that state of mental focus in this way. Then the Buddhas of the 10 directions each extended his right hand and patted universally good, his or her right hand, and patted universally good on the head. Their hands were each adorned with the marks of greatness, being finely webbed, emanating light, fragrance, and flames. They also produced the various wondrous tones of all Buddhas, and within it were manifested the phenomena of mystical powers, the ocean of vows of universal goodness of all enlightening beings of past, present, and future, the cycles of pure teachings, anyway, the cycles of pure teachings. I should do a little more, because then it says the Buddha patted all the Buddhas and all the atoms of all the universes, and even all the atoms of all the atoms of all the universes and all the atoms, and so on, ad infinitum. The Buddha patted all the universally goods on the head, in all of those ways, in all of those places. So it's like, this is like sort of Buddha Bhakti. This is devotion to Buddhas, and to all the Buddhas in yourself, and in every atom of yourself are all universally goods. And you are also in all of those things. So then it's sort of, you're already practically there. If you knew time If you knew the illusoriness of time, in the future you will know you will be universally good is the idea yourself. You won't necessarily be Buddhist. Universally good is not necessarily a Buddhist. But he loves Buddhas. He's a post-Buddha enlightening being, enlightening Shiro. And there's a Samanta Bhadra and a Samanta Bhadri, a female and a male one too. So it's a vision like that. And this would be good to read up to the head pat, so you can kind of feel the pat of all the Buddhas on all the atoms in your head where there are all infinite numbers of Buddhas and universally good enlightening Shiros, enlightening beings, enlightening heroes. Okay? So we dedicate the merit by all beings become like Samanta, universally good Samanta Bhadra, Bodhisattva, like the Buddha Vairochana, the shining solar Buddha, like Shakyamuni Buddha. May all beings become Buddha, equal to all of them, and may we join them as one of the Buddhas, and may we do everything to help them become that, and we so dedicate the merit of not only this concluding thing to read at the end of class, but also the whole of the class and all that we learned and practiced and attained, and also the vision of matter is voidness, voidness is matter, and negate, gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhisattva.
This episode of the Bob Thurman Podcast was recorded for the online and in-person Vajra Yoga teacher trainings. To learn more about this wonderful program beginning this October, please visit menla.org and bobthurman.com. This podcast is brought to you in part through the generous support of the Tibet House US Menla membership community and listeners like you. To learn more about how to support this podcast by becoming a member, please visit our websites at thus.org, menla.org, and bobthurman.com. The podcast is produced under a Creative Commons No Derivatives license. Please feel free to share, like, and repost on your favorite social media platforms. Music for the Bob Thurman Podcast is generously supplied by Tenzing Chogyal. To learn more about the music and work of Tenzing Chogyal, please visit his website at tenzingchogyal.com. Tashi Delek, and thanks for tuning in.